Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth, alongside Phil Duvall, or Ted Kaczynski. Say hi, Phil.
Hello. I'm back in training, man. I had to get. I'm in my workout gear because you gotta. I realize that no soft-bellied person can sit through every single Mel Gibson movie. You've gotta have a level of training and some strength and agility, and so I'm just sweating it out, man. I'm ready. I'm
That's
rocking.
totally fair. I'll be honest. I'll be honest. When I got the latest Netflix movie in the mail, and it was another Mel Gibson movie, I was like, oh god,
Okay.
oh god,
Okay.
and we have so much more to go. But that's okay because once I'm actually watching them, it's actually usually pretty good. Uh, as we
This
have
one,
implied, ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, today it's time for another installment of Project Melway, brought to you by
the Gibsonian
the
Institute.
Gibsonian Institute. We are, very briefly, watching all of Mel Gibson's filmography in chronological order. We're a
Yes.
few weeks in. It's been alternately fun and horrifying so far. Yes, Phil.
His acting
Yes.
filmography.
Yes, which basically cuts out, like,
Two movies.
Passion of the Christ and Apocalypto, but, you know, what are you going to do?
Right.
So, today's movie, The
Nah.
Year of Living Dangerously. The Year of
Woof.
Living Dangerously.
Woof.
Starring, you might imagine, Mel Gibson.
Well, we've seen some other movies that were not starring him, but
That's
but we
fair.
had to watch them. But this is definitely a Mel Gibson vehicle.
It is. It is. Also starring Sigourney Weaver.
Oof.
Uh, Also starring Linda Hunt, who you know probably, if you don't know her from this movie, you know her as the diminutive bartender from Silverado, or the equally diminutive principal from Kindergarten Cop,
Yes.
who is awesome squared and is also awesome in this movie. She won an Academy Award for it.
She won an Academy Award for it, and she was playing a man. And
Yes.
she was the first person ever to win an award for playing the opposite sex. There are situations where someone has played. Hilary Swank won for playing
A woman passing as a man.
a woman, a transgendered person. So one woman
Yes.
becoming a man or a man becoming a woman. Which was it? A woman becoming a man?
Uh, I'm not sure where she was in the
I never saw the
transgender
movie,
process, but or
but
the
she was
or the
becoming which
transitioning
one?
process.
Okay, what's her face? Gwyneth Paltrow won for Shakespeare in Love, where she goes in drag for a big chunk of the movie.
Indeed.
But this is the first time that someone's won an Academy Award where her character is a man's character. In fact, Peter Weir was trying to cast a man. He looked at Bob Balaban. He looked at Wallace Shawn. He looked at several other diminutive actors, and none of them gave him exactly what he wanted. And so he cast this woman to play this man.
Man, both of those
I
movies would have been really weird.
Yeah. Well, and she was really weird. She was really weird, but fantastic.
Yeah.
It. I never thought of her as a man, but I don't know if that's my own fault. In the sense of I know already that she's a woman. I wonder if the vast majority of people who had never seen her would
Because it
have
was
known.
one of her first credits. It was one of her first credits.
It
I agree with you. I had
was
the
mainly
same
a stage.
issue.
She was mainly a stage actor at that point, and
Hmm.
so I'm curious as to if mainstream America knew
Right.
or what they. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. She
One
was
last.
phenomenal in this film.
Oh, she's so good. One last person I want to mention because you may have seen him in other wonderful movies. Michael Murphy, who plays sort of a jerk, because he always plays a jerk. Another journalist. We'll get to the plot in a second, but he plays a journalist. You may know him from Manhattan.
Yep.
He is the jerk named
Well,
Yale.
he's Woody Allen's best friend in the movie.
Yes, but he's the guy who Diane Keaton is having the affair with. He's the married man that Diane Keaton is having the affair with in
They're
that
all
movie.
jerks in Woody Allen movies.
That's fair.
But
I,
yes,
you're right. You're right. So, Phil, do you
I
want
just
to?
realized that. I'd never thought about that before.
Sure.
That's a whole other subject.
That's
Anyways,
true.
and yeah, he plays the ugly American.
Yes, he is the
His
ugly
he is
American
this is
journalist.
a very this movie is a movie that is filled with symbolism and very symbolic characters and very
Yes,
symbolic actions. And this character is literally the ugly American.
indeed. Do you want to take us through the plot, or
No,
Would you?
why don't you do that?
Okay, very very briefly because it is very symbolic. Mel Gibson plays a journalist sent over from Australia to Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Indonesia, and he is almost immediately out of his depth, but just as quickly he is sort of taken under the wing of this photographer, Billy Kwan, played by Linda Hunt, who
Yeah.
seems to know everybody and blah
Yeah.
blah blah, and they form a partnership as the country is coming close to imploding.
Yeah, this
Um,
was during a specific time frame. It was
yeah,
during the it
it
was
was
set in like the 60s,
65. Mm-hmm.
65, and it was during there was about to be a civil war basically.
Yes, and it is also a romance. A woman who works at the British Embassy, played by Sigourney Weaver, uh, and she and Mel, Guy Hamilton is his character's name. Jane, I think, is her name. Whatever.
Sigourney.
Sigourney and Mel start a romance, and and that's kind of it. And the situation gets more and more dangerous, both in general and for them as they are Westerners. Um, uh, Australia being considered basically part of Europe by the Indonesians for obvious reasons.
Well, they see a white guy speaking English, and they're just like, "You're
Indeed,
out."
and they don't stop to check his
Sure,
accent.
sure.
And that's what happens. That is actually a more complex plot than we've had in most of Mel's movies so far.
Yeah, yeah. So it deals with issues of East versus West, communism, rise and fall of communism, and how people treated that and how they saw that. Imperialism. It deals with issues of economic disparity.
Hmm.
It deals with, but it also deals on a very deep level with trust.
Yes.
It's a movie about trust.
Real quick,
It's a movie
I
about
apologize for
relationships.
interrupting, but
Go
one
ahead.
last thing I want to say about the crew, the cast and crew, directed by Peter Weir. Also
Okay.
directed Gallipoli. You also know him as the director of Truman Show. You probably don't know him as the director of Fearless, but you should. He's just
Dead Poet
Dead
Society,
Poet.
Master
Thank
and
you.
Commander, Far Side of the World,
Yes,
Witness,
yes.
Mosquito Coast.
The man
Uh,
makes a good movie. The man knows how to cut together a movie.
I
He
was
just.
looking at his filmography earlier, and I would say he's made six Stone Cold classics.
Mm.
That's pretty intense. That's pretty intense.
Agreed.
Like
Agreed.
I would take Year of Living Dangerously.
Yep.
I wouldn't consider Gallipoli a classic, but other people do, so that's a possibility for the list.
Sure.
Year of Living Dangerously. This movie was the most expensive movie made in Australia up to that point. It had a $6 million budget, and it was the
Interesting.
most expensive movie ever made in Australia up to that point.
Okay.
And after this movie, he was awarded a special Queen's Medal of Honor, basically, for his contribution to Australian film.
Okay.
So this movie is a big deal, folks. This is a big deal for Australia.
Yeah.
It's so good that the soundtrack is almost bearable. That's how good it is. Every Australian movie we've seen so far, the soundtrack has just been piss poor.
Wow.
There's some
Wow. Yeah.
synthesizer in this, but it's not it's limited, and there's a lot of American pop music, so you know it's better. Because I'm the
That's true.
quintessential ugly American. I'm no better than the ugly American on that show.
None of us are, Phil. It's fine.
He's done Year of Living Dangerously, Witness,
Mm-hmm.
Dead Poet Society, Fearless, um,
Truman Show.
Truman Show, and I'd say Master and Commander. I'd say all those are classics.
Okay.
And yeah. And a lot of people didn't see Master and Commander. See Master and
I
Commander.
need to. I need to. I didn't see it.
Oh, Andy, I have a question.
Go, Phil.
Do you like movies?
I do.
Do you like fun?
Um, I usually come down on the side of fun. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I do.
Then you will enjoy Master and Commander.
You have bested me yet again with your logic, good sir. No, I admit
Listen,
I was like it looked a little, and clearly I'm wrong, and clearly I was wrong then, but it looked a little stuffy to me from the trailers,
sure,
and I
sure.
wasn't in the mood for a seafaring movie. And then
Yeah,
it
I hear
was
that.
you. you were like, this movie is amazing, but it just never made its way all the way to the top of my queue.
I
It's on my
honestly
queue.
don't care if you see it before the next time we see each other because I will watch it anytime.
Excellent.
The last time I had people over and they were like, "I've never seen Master and Commander," I just pulled it out and just put it on. I just put the movie
Awesome.
on. It's like, oh well, guess what you're doing now?
Awesome.
And they loved it. What do you say? Full disclosure,
Yeah.
huge Russell Crowe fan. Huge. I think Russell Crowe is one of those guys that people make jokes about a lot because of his personality. They think it's funny.
Yep.
He has never been bad in anything, and he has been phenomenal in most things.
Agreed.
He is a person who brings every piece of himself into everything that he does, and I love Russell Crowe so much.
I agree with you.
But that's not Year of Living Dangerously. Let's talk about Year of Living Dangerously.
Let's. So let's start with the acting. I think the acting. I want to start by talking about Mel Gibson, which is weird. I don't think I've had that feeling.
We haven't done that.
Right.
This is the first Project Melway film where Mel Gibson is he's something we can talk about.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal. I mean, it's easily one of his best roles.
Yes.
He is. He looks older. Like something has happened in the last couple years from his last couple movies, and he just looks like a man.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever seen him more handsome. He is dashing.
He is. The
first time he shows up, it's like people's faces melt from his beauty.
He is in this movie. He is Errol Flynn, Gene Kelly. Like he is that sort of matinee idol. I mean, he really is. He has never been
like the men you mentioned, gorgeous but with depth. The man has.
Yes.
This is you see Mel Gibson as an actor. I think for the first time what he's capable of.
And I want to talk about his performance through this light. I agree with you. That it is a performance with depth, and it is an actor's performance, and however you want to term it. But I also think, and I think this is a separate thing, I also think it is a star turn. It is so confident, and it is so like how to put this? In today's parlance, it's a movie that Tom Cruise would do. And Tom Cruise wouldn't do it as well in this particular role. But it's like Tom Cruise in, for example, Collateral, where he went with a Michael Mann movie, and he still gives the Tom Cruise acting performance that you expect, whatever you think of a Tom Cruise acting performance. But it's also like, I am a star and I command the camera.
Yes.
And it is. Some people can do one, some people can do the other. It is rare, even when people can do it. It is rare to see someone do both, and Gibson pulls it off. I absolutely think it's his best performance so far.
Yes.
And I know a lot of the movies that we're about to see, and I think it's better than many of those as well, if not all of them.
It's easily one of his best performances that I can remember.
Yes,
and it plays off of. We're starting to see. I'm always interested in the development of Mel Gibson as an actor, and I think through our project, and I think one thing we're seeing here is, again, like, I look for certain aspects of him.
Yes,
and this is a rich and nuanced performance. You don't realize how naive he is based on how he acts. You realize it based on what Billy Kwan says about him.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see it in light of that. But he doesn't realize it. He doesn't play like the biggest sort of like stereotype would be or caricature of it, and it's a beautiful caricature, would be like Tim Robbins in Hudsucker Proxy.
Right.
Like, oh shucks, you know? There is an aw shucksness to Mel Gibson's naivete, but he doesn't come off as aw shucks. He comes off as confident and cocky and like headstrong and it's really the narration by Billy Kwan that makes you go, okay,
right,
okay. There's more. He sees something in Mel Gibson that in Guy that we don't see right away.
Yeah, to clarify, and you might not mean this exact thing, but when Phil says, he doesn't realize how naive it is, how naive he is, and we don't realize it from watching him. That's not a flaw. That isn't a flaw in the performance. That's a strength of the
Right.
performance. It's like he doesn't play naive because he doesn't realize how naive he
And
is.
and the other people around him, with the exception of Billy Kwan, everyone else around him believes his confidence.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they all buy into it. So it's the rest. It's not like a guy who didn't know how to act unsure. It's not like a guy or naive. It's a guy who's acting the. Not, people who are truly naive don't know they're naive.
Right.
His
Exactly.
confidence is disarming. His confidence, his attractiveness, his self possession and
Yes.
idealism at the beginning, especially the idealism, is so much a part of him that you don't even think in terms of naivete until you think in terms of you until you see him through Billy's eyes, through
Yes.
Linda Hunt's eyes. Phenomenal. It really is great. It's a
Yes.
great movie.
And
I
and
loved
and and then
him.
by the end of the movie, you look at what he's sort of become, and it's not, he hasn't like
Yes.
gone to the dark side. His
Well, he gets
journey
redeemed.
is a very subtle journey. But
Well, it is, and there's redemption.
yes, yes. Um, let's talk about his relationship with Sigourney Weaver, because I think she does a marvelous job too.
Can I say something about Sigourney Weaver?
Please do.
Growing up, never saw her as an attractive woman.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
You and I have.
She is so, and I use this word very carefully, recognizing that I am a clergy person, and I say this with respect. And I
Yes.
say this not in a lurid way, but in
Right.
an actual, not a lurid way.
Yeah.
She is so sexy in this movie.
Yes.
And it's not, and I don't mean sexual. See,
Yes.
we get that our culture gets sexy and sexual confused a lot.
Yes.
She's not sexual. She's not. It's not lurid. It's not dirty or tawdry. She is. She is so regal and suggestive in her facial face. It's her performance is just as nuanced as his. And
Yes.
and it makes me rethink of Sigourney Weaver and every other thing I've seen her in now. And now all of a sudden I think she was beautiful in all of them.
I
Does that
agree
make
with you.
sense? Like
Um,
that's
it,
like
yes, it makes sense because I feel the same way. There is a scene, and it is the first time you see them sort of uh, admit to each other the passion that they have for each other, and
yeah.
and it is and it is a passionate scene, and it is not exploitative, it is not gratuitous, and
Mm-mm.
it is one of, to use the word again, it is one of the sexiest scenes that
Yeah.
I can remember.
Right.
It is an honest and adult viewing, and I don't mean that in the porn way.
No, right. It,
It's an
it it
adult
literally is
telling of an
mature.
adult love story.
It's like mature. It's
Yes.
actually mature. Even
Yes.
though the two of them are fairly immature, it's a very
Yes.
mature. It's a
Yes.
very mature. I'm sorry. It's so mature that I'm going to say mature. That's how mature it is.
That
It's so
yes.
mature that I'm going to
Yes.
say mature. It's a very mature approach to very immature people
Yes.
in a relationship. Yeah, really,
Yes.
just her performance. I've always thought she was great, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've just never thought of her as an object of desire until this movie, and now it makes me rethink everything about her.
Yes.
I mean, she has never been more stunning.
Yes.
And it's not that it made me realize something about both of them.
Please.
I was thinking about a comment that Bill made once about Charlize Theron,
That who said?
which is that Charlize Theron,
Sorry, who said about Charlize Theron?
Bill Simmons, the
Oh,
sports guy
right.
from Grantland and ESPN. He was talking about Charlize Theron with someone, and I don't recall who he was talking to. He might have been talking to Jason Reitman, the director of
Juno and
Juno, and the one that just came out with her in it, Young Adult,
yes.
which is a fantastic movie, by the way.
Yes. Yes. If you
And
want to feel worse about the human
and
condition,
she was
watch that
very,
movie.
very much overlooked during the award season, I think. But anyways,
Agreed.
um, he Bill Simmons pointed out that Charlize Theron is easily one of the most gorgeous people that has ever walked the earth,
Indeed.
and doesn't really show it in her movies. Which he was actually, I think, if I remember correctly, was sort of like, and maybe she should do a movie where she's just elegantly gorgeous. Like
Sure.
in the sense that like makes such a point of uglying herself up.
Right.
But all the great actresses of yesteryear would have roles where they were just
Right.
show-stopping.
Right. Yes.
Show-stopping,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Rita Hayworth, even Betty Davis had the moments
Right.
where even if Betty
Yeah.
Davis wasn't in your mind beautifully gorgeous,
Yeah.
she would do something and you'd be like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
Grace Kelly, Lauren
Audrey
Bacall.
Hepburn,
Absolutely.
Grace
Yes.
Kelly, Katharine
Absolutely.
Hepburn, every
Absolutely.
Hepburn that ever Hepburned. And that Charlize Theron, except for her first movie in America, which was 2 Days in the Valley, where she played a siren, she really hasn't done it since. And it made me.
Right.
I thought about that when I was watching this movie, where I thought about the fact that both Mel Gibson and Sigourney Weaver are actors who are essentially gorgeous and who don't actually capitalize on it very much in their movies.
I would agree with that. I would agree
Mel
with that.
Gibson doesn't go out of his way to be gorgeous or like the handsome leading man. I mean, he has done it,
Right.
but he doesn't do it like it's not a very like he's not just dashing. Like George Clooney has been dashing.
Right. It's not the thing you remember, as we'll discuss, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. It's not the thing you remember from the Lethal Weapon movies, right? That he is good looking, right? It's not the thing you remember certainly from the Alien movies, that she is
Right.
stunning.
Or even the Ghostbusters movies,
That's
or
right. That's better.
Death
That's
and the
better.
Maiden, which
Yeah.
was fantastic. And I mean, anything she's in, she just does whatever she wants.
Mhm.
She's just but it was kind of so seeing them both just being gorgeous was it was cool.
I agree. I agree.
Before we wrap this up, we need to talk about the Billy Kwan character.
Yes, I want to.
I have something very specific I want to say, but I'd like you to go first.
I think Billy Kwan. It gets back to what you were talking about at the beginning. This movie is on many different of its levels. It is about trust. On a micro level internally, like, do you trust yourself with certain things? On the level between people and between governments and between a government and its people. It is on every conceivable level. It's about trust, and that is most clearly exemplified in the character of Billy Kwan, who, like, is he a spy? Is he just a weirdo that keeps files on his friends? And to be perfectly honest, I don't remember the movie explicitly answering that question, but I mean, it hints in certain ways pretty distinctly, but I don't think it ever explicitly answers it. And Linda Hunt is just, she's so good. She's so good. Having said that, it's a weird character. It is a bizarre, like, the motivations of the character are weird. The actions of the character are often weird.
Unconventional.
What'd you say?
Unconventional.
Unconventional.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop him, the character, from being unbelievably compelling, and not in a showy way. It's not a super show. There are a couple of, like,
it's a brilliant performance. There's a couple moments where it's like, and here's my Oscar moment.
Yes. But overall, no. It's not a showy part. So that's all I wanted to say. Please. What do you?
Billy Kwan is Jesus. To me very explicitly. Billy Kwan plays the Christ figure in this movie.
Right.
And it starts the very first time you see him, he is looking at someone and recognizing their innocence and seeing promise where other people don't.
Nice.
And then in the very next scene, he goes to protect and walk with the guy as he goes into the valley of the shadow of death. He goes into the darkness place, into the poor place. And what does he quote? He quotes the Gospel of Luke. He quotes Scripture, and which, by the way, just for me, this was very poignant because the verse that he quotes. Most churches in mainline traditions, Roman Catholic, Presbyterian, Methodist, Lutheran, Episcopalian, are all on the same reading schedule. We all read from the same readings every weekend.
Okay.
That was the reading last weekend. That was the exact reading that I preached on last weekend.
Wow.
So
awesome.
It was
well done, Gibsonian Institute.
But in the point was this idea that, which I think is very Jesus-like, specifically the character of Jesus, not just the Christ figure, which is his whole argument in the beginning is, help the person right in front of you. And Mel goes,
Right.
well, that's naive. And he's like,
Right.
but I don't think that it is. I think that it's the whole thing. And that's
Right.
actually, if you look at the story of Jesus in the Gospels as a person, his ministry was whoever's right in front of you.
Right.
He would go somewhere to do something, but if someone showed up and interrupted, he'd be like, well, then I help that person. And the whole world and the saving of everything and all that was one person at a time in a very localized area. And that's how Billy Kwan thinks the whole time. And Billy Kwan looks at people in terms of trust and innocence. He keeps files on them, yes, for what I consider to be, for some reason, almost like loving reasons. Like
Agreed.
it's almost
Agreed.
benevolent.
Yes.
And what he's sickened by the most is corruption and dishonesty. And he dies, of course, and his death brings about the salvation of Mel Gibson's character.
Yes.
Not without a
That's
cost. And
no.
Jesus, who said that if looking at something makes you sin, I'd rather you pluck out your eyes than go to hell. And Mel Gibson gets hurt and gets a detached retina, and they say if you move, you're gonna lose
You're
that.
gonna lose the eye.
And in the end, he decides he has to do it, and his friend's like, well, if it's worth losing your eye, and he's like, it is.
yeah.
I mean, there's all this crazy Christological imagery, and Billy Kwan and there's even the point, the last thing he says to Mel Gibson is he goes, I created you. And that's the last thing he says to him.
That's right.
And I was just like, like me, the Christological symbolism guy, I was just like, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom,
No,
ba-boom.
totally.
By that point, I don't really love the character. I think you're right. He's very weird. He's very ambiguous. Although I would tend to think that if you met Jesus in real life during his ministry, you'd be like, that dude is weird. And he makes choices we don't understand. We don't always know where he's coming from. It is the best performance of the movie, which is not to say anything negative about the other performances.
Right.
This is a movie with incredibly layered performances, except for the first one you mentioned, The Ugly American, who, when he came on one more time, my wife goes, is his whole role just to yell and act like a jerk every scene? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the Ugly American. He represents America. We treat everyone as less than us. We whore out the poor people. We're hypocritical and cynical. I mean, and all that stuff. I mean, that's the view anyway. That's the view.
The special mention, because I will never remember his name. I could look at it and I still wouldn't remember it. The guy who plays sort of his Indonesian attaché, Kuber, is just really good. He's just you learn about him that he is part of the insurgency, and he's just like he is decent and thought-provoking and wise without being like the traditional cliche of the wise other. Yep. He's just a guy. He's just a guy that feels something strongly, and that's what I loved most about this movie. It was a bunch of, except for The Ugly American, a bunch of well-meaning people who believed different things really deeply, but hadn't necessarily explored, like, all right, if I feel this really deeply, what does it take to get a little biblical? What does it take to walk that path? Is it enough to say that I feel something really deeply? And this movie is engrossing and just a blast to watch. It is not like getting lectured to by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
It is.
It's a great yarn. It's a really good story. It's worth checking out.
Movie. Yes.
Yes. Definitely check it out.
Please.
Definitely the best. Definitely my favorite movie we've watched so far. No, I mean Road Warrior probably, but it's definitely one. It's definitely like this. It just feels of a very special piece. It's a very special movie.
Yes.
So what's next on the list?
What is next on the list? The next on the list
Bounty.
is The Bounty. One of the most retold stories in movies, The Mutiny on the Bounty, with
Tony Hopkins.
Yeah, that's right, as Captain Bligh, and Mel Gibson is Fletcher Christian. We'll have that for you next Wednesday, and I am really looking forward to it.
Yep.
Not so much because I think it's a great movie, because I'm not sure that it is, but it might be. and because it will be fun to see those two actors go up against each other as those two
Yes.
characters do.
Hopkins.
Yes,
Hopkins.
Hopkins, indeed,
Hopkins. And in
Hopkins.
conclusion, see Master and Commander, Far Side of the World.
Yes, yes, but also see The Year of Living
The Year of
Dangerously.
Living
You will not be
Dangerously.
sorry you did.
It's
Um,
really made up for a lot of crap that we've seen.
oh, yeah, yes, yes, indeed, it absolutely
So,
has, guys. This has been another Second Breakfast installment of Project Melway, brought to you by the Gibsonian Institute. Uh, tell your friends, leave us some YouTube comments, enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow for a discussion of I think we're going with The Hobbit. I think that's what we're
it's
doing.
probably going to happen.
I mean, I don't think we can stop ourselves. And then our Christmas mailbag on Friday. So that's what's on tap for the rest of the week, guys. Have a lovely Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.